and thank you for joining us today for Multifamily Meetup Mondays. I'm your host for today, Carlos D. Reinoso. Thank you so much for joining us. Briefly, I'll tell you a little bit about the show and how I got started, and then I'll tell you a little bit about me and how I got started in the multifamily space. And then we'll tell you a brief bio about our guest for today, our very special guest, Ketan Patel of Ketan Patel Coaching. So yeah, let me tell you about Multifamily Meetup Mondays and how we got started. Basically, this was a in-person meetup group started by Dan Hanford of Multifamily Investor Nation. You can see the company name right here. And right under that is my company name, Canis Major Investment Capital, LLC. And as you all know, the pandemic hit beginning of the year of 2020. And right after that, we decided we wanted to keep it as a virtual meetup group. And so I started this virtual meetup. I called it Multifamily Meetup Mondays. Hence, it's a meetup, it's virtual, and it's we try to come at you every first Monday of the month. And so that's how the show got started. A little bit about me. I started investing in real estate. I started in real estate in 1999 as a single family agent. I've done joint ventures of small 5 and 6 units back in Miami, Florida in 2001. We did a full cycle with them. By 2003 to 2005, we sold the 4, 5, and 6 units that we had available, and moved over to Georgia. I've been doing real estate in Georgia ever since. Recently been invited to be a general partner on a group here, national group I should say, but they do have properties located here in Atlanta, Georgia. And so they invited me to be a general partner on their deal as well. Their deals. So I'm very excited about that. Looking to raise capital for my first deal as a syndicator or as a co-syndicator here in Georgia. And enough about me. Now let me tell you a little bit about Ketan Patel. He started as a pharmacist originally. He's been coached and mentored by Joe Fairless, also by Trevor McGregor, which is Joe Fairless's coach, and by Tony Robbins as well. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome, and if you would join me in welcoming, Ketan Patel of Ketan Patel Coaching. So Ketan, take it away.
But how do we really apply and create a strategy that works for us is very, very important. So I combine the personal development, the mindset side, along with real estate. So before we dive into the skill of capital raising, it's very, very important to understand why we want to master it. I've done over 100 strategy calls, and I have done a lot of calls where people tell me they found this amazing deal, but they just are not sure if they should submit the offer. They are not sure if they have the bandwidth. So if you master the skill and if you have database of investors, your confidence in finding deals would increase because you'll know what kind of units you could go after, all that, right? Your opportunities in real estate would increase. So if you have this database and today you're buying apartment complexes, and 2 years down the road, you might want to do self storage or you might want to do hotel. You have nurtured that capital base. This is something that I did. I have a base of capital right now. If I want to change direction from multifamily, I could do that. So capital raising will give you that opportunity. Obviously, it will help you scale your business as well because you could do more transactions, you could do bigger transactions. And the most important thing is, after you put in that initial time, energy, and effort to build a database, you get referrals and the business builds on itself. So I don't need to do any marketing right now, and I could comfortably raise $5 to $7 million a year just from the existing pool of investors, right? So this is the other part of real estate business that a lot of us don't focus. We focus on finding the deals and finding the hot market, but this completes the picture of real estate investing. It doesn't matter if you're trying to flip apartment complexes or hold it for long-term wealth, whatever your individual strategy or market is, right? So what happens before you start raising capital is important to develop an ideal investor profile. I didn't do this thing in the very beginning, right? So the questions you might have to ask yourself is, for your business model, what kind of investors are a good fit? Are these investors that have already invested before with a little bit of LP experience, or they are brand new? What is their risk tolerance? What kind of returns make sense for them, right? Very basic questions to get started. This process goes much deeper. So for example, for me, my ideal investor profile is somebody who wants to passively invest in value add multifamily that is taking middle risk and wants to generate an X amount of preferred return and understands the risk with the valuation and whatnot. And their goal is to build wealth with the passive investment. I'm not looking for partners, active investors, or anything like that, right? So you want, and my target market is also people who are professionals, doctors, pharmacists, lawyers. So it just kind of makes it easy for me to have my story message, the way I connect with them, all of those things. When we don't have that, it's just like going out in an open ocean and hoping to catch a fish. And then what happens is your efforts, you're not getting as much results, right? Versus catching a mackerel. Now you know where mackerels are in the ocean, what kind of boat you need, etc., right? So you have to develop your ideal investor profile. After that, going into your niche. All of us have one particular niche that we could focus on. For me, it was easy to just focus on healthcare professionals. If you are not a healthcare professional, you might have something. You might have a touch point in community. Maybe you have a past career in construction. There's always something where you have a group of people where you've already built the trust. They already know you a little bit. And it's much easier to leverage the relationships there. But commonly people feel that I'm going to appear salesy if I'm just reaching to my old classmates or anything like that, right? This is what I felt. And I started reaching out to everybody I went to school with, and I got a handful of investors. Some of them were already investing regularly in multifamily syndication, so they became my bigger investors as time grew. So very important to know that your goal is not to get investments from there, but you're serving them, right? You're giving them an opportunity, you're educating them. When you look at it from that angle, it's not just about you. And you could reach out to them without like a limiting belief of appearing to be salesy. So ask yourself, what is a group of people? Maybe if you love playing golf, maybe you have developed some relationships there, or through your religious organizations, or your other partner, your wife or girlfriend, anybody's network. I know people who have done that. um, just try to figure out that niche. And for example, if you really like to, if your passion is to really help people get the passive income so they could leave the job, maybe that could be your target market, right? Okay, so that's our next point. And after that, it's the power of your story. This is a very, very important piece as well. A lot of times, what happens is, as investors, we are talking with potential investors and we are talking them about the deal, the return, the market. These are important things, but not as important as the connection and trust that you need to build with them, right? So so for example, my story was that, hey, I'm a pharmacist. I understood the power of passive income. I started buying these single family and triple family homes, and I'll go into that story basically. So this way they get a chance to know me, where I came from, what my values are, which is very, very important. And then after that, when they trust me, I could talk about the deal. In the beginning, I wasn't doing that. I was focusing too much on, hey, DFW is the fastest growing metro. This is a very, very good investment because we have a great management company and the numbers are great. That's very, very important, but not as much as your personal story. And we all have certain points in our personal story and journey for real estate that you could use to educate these potential passive investors. So, and same thing goes for your business too. So, for your multifamily, the personal story piece that I just discussed. The second thing is a brand story. That's very, very important as well. So, if you believe that, hypothetically, let's just say that larger metros are overrated and you prefer tertiary markets because the numbers support it or the data support it, you have some unique insights into the way you do business. You really want to make sure those things are getting communicated to the investors so they could really differentiate you. Otherwise, they are going to think of this is just another person that's doing multifamily, but why they should do business with your brand? What's special about you guys? Do you vet 30 deals and only select deals that have a certain operating expense ratio and certain amount of NOI growth, or certain kind of markets, or certain kind of opportunities in the actual assets? Everybody has different business model, but dig deep down and come up with those 3 or 4 things that you could use in your messaging, website, all of that stuff. And then the same thing goes for the personal story, right? So very, very important to hone your story. And as time goes, it evolves and gets better. This way, when they talk to you with the personal story, they build the trust with you. With your brand story, they see your expertise, and then they could decide if they like that business model or not. But at least it gives you a better shot at getting your message and your opportunity across. So once you do that, the next thing would be building your investor list. So if you are advanced, if you have already, some people might have already done it, but the number one thing is to start with your inner circle. Everybody and this is something that I did before I started raising. I have not raised any money at all besides 100,000 or 200,000 from a friend or family. But then to do this thing, it has to be a process, because let's face it, if you are going to be in real estate long time, the capital needs not going to go away anytime soon, right? So make an investor list. You could start with an Excel sheet. Definitely don't think about anything right now about who might be interested, or should I ask this person or no. The number one step is to just put everybody down, everybody that you have done any kind of business with that's a potential, putting it down and making the list as longer as you can. Then the next step, you could basically sort the list out and just prioritize about, I'm going to focus on these 10 people. And it's very, very easy to make assumptions. And I talked to a childhood friend that I hadn't connected in a long time, and turned out that he really loved the opportunity. In fact, he's been looking to invest in real estate, but he told me that he sees all these opportunities, he just doesn't know how to trust somebody, and at least he could trust me as a person, and he would take on this opportunity, which wasn't the best returns that he has seen. He has seen even better opportunities, right? So you never know who's waiting out there for you to educate and reach out. And then what happens is the referrals you could get from them, it will really start growing your business. So be resourceful and put everybody on the list. And the limiting belief we talked about, becoming salesy, we have to get over that as well, right? Because our goal is not just to get their check. Our goal is to educate them, give them the opportunity, and they are making the decision. So you are doing something to benefit them, and you're doing something to benefit yourself, right? um, Once you build that initial investor list, depending on how you do it, you might be able to get some investor commitments from there. But what would happen after that? After that, we will have to grow the investor list, right? We just cannot rely on that initial investor list. You might raise 200, 500,000, $1 million from that list. How do we grow that list now in a busy world, right? There's all the blogs and all the podcasts and all the webinars. There's so much going on. It's like, do I put a post on Facebook or LinkedIn, or what do I do, right? So number one thing, when you are starting out and if you are not marketing to investors yet, you really have to pick your first lead engine and first platform. And before you even do that, ask yourself, what is good for you? Do you like videos and presenting, or you don't like screen? You like more of writing things and blogs. That's your niche. It's something, it has to be something that you enjoy, because it's not going to be just putting out some videos and content and everybody's going to come flocking, right? So might as well pick something that you're getting some fun out of it, and figure that out. What is that for you? Blog, video? Is it doing a podcast? You like the interviewing content, or you like, I mean, we can't have in-person meetup right now, but do you like Meetup? Picking that niche first, then picking your lead engine, which is you just want to cultivate one thing. So let's talk about LinkedIn for an example. You want to stop everything and just focus on LinkedIn. So the LinkedIn strategy, I'm at a 10,000-foot overview, is just connecting with more and more people. And then you're posting content on it. And when people click, they are going onto your website, getting into your funnel where you have a lead magnet, and they are getting into your system and they are getting nurtured. Or another way would be to craft your message and just be a guest on podcast. And then towards the end, give them something special, like 5 reasons why real estate syndications fail, or 5 things to look out for passive investors. It could be anything revolving around your expertise, right? And you leave that behind. Now you're getting that traffic. But the key is this: the the reason I use the word engine is because to make sure we are building it out. We don't want to go on 2 podcasts here, put a blog here, put something there. It's just like throwing confetti in air, like Joe Fairless says to me, and hoping something would stick, right? It doesn't. So, and again, doesn't mean the first engine has to work. You are going to get some feedback. You're going to know, okay, I don't like doing these videos as much, or this is taking more time. Maybe I should hire somebody. The goal is to do it so you get the feedback and you could revise it, right? So once you pick that, you generate the content which is providing value to investors. And this is another sticking point where everybody's thinking, aren't all the blogs out there for real estate investing? They're out there, but these people want to hear from you. They're in your group, they're connected to you, or they're listening to your show, right? And you have a unique perspective that I don't have. I have a perspective that you might not have. So you use your unique perspective to develop the content value, educate your investors about the risk and the return and the market, whatever your system is. And the goal is to basically funnel investors through your website, and from that in your emails to your calls. And once they are on phone calls, it's basically they are somewhat committed, they are interested, they are curious about you, and then you take them through the phone into further conversations, and you could decide if they want to invest in future deals or whatnot. So you want to prove your model, repeat it, make sure it's predicted, and then you could scale it. And there's a lot of things you could do, Facebook ads, and there's 100 strategies out there, but this is just like an outline to pick a strategy, refine it, right? Now another major part is investor communications. Like we talked about, trust and authority is the key. So what we talked about earlier, your unique story, your track record and experience, the thought leadership platform we talked about, interviews you could do with investors or people you know, these would form the base to give you the trust and authority with your folks, your passive investor bases. And with marketing on a very, very high level overview, if you have done things and they haven't worked, 99% of the time they're falling in one of this category. Either you didn't had a good strategy that worked for you, either you weren't really leveraging your strategy, maybe you were not consistent, you just dabbled into it, you didn't give it enough time, right? It takes time. So sometimes you did something for 3 months, or you just have a subconscious belief that you know the feeling, I'm doing this, is it really gonna work, would anybody just uh, come from my blog or something like that. And then the last thing, if if you are having conversations with investors are not investing, it always comes down to these four fundamental things. The first is lack of knowledge on their part. So they are just not clear if they could really evaluate the investment, right? They are just not sure, they don't understand things, and a lot of the investors are not going to tell you out right away. You have to read between the lines what their challenge is it that's the case, or they have a fear of the market crashing, or losing the investment for whatever reason. That's another thing. They might not trust you enough yet, or they might not trust your expertise. And then the number four is non-alignment. Maybe they just don't like the market you're in or the way the deal structure, which is absolutely fine. But once you know this on the back of your mind, you could track, okay, I did 10 calls, I'm seeing the same pattern, everybody's saying the same thing, maybe I need to change my structuring, or maybe I need to change something in my funnel or anything like that, right? So this was just a high level overview. If you want to raise millions and millions of dollars, we have to put these fundamentals into your business over time so you could do it consistently. Otherwise, what happens is you have limited time because you're finding deals, you're doing other things, and with limited amount of time you're not able to generate the results. So hope you guys were able to learn something. And before we open up the Q&A floor, I'll also give you my email. So for this group, I'm running a special promotion for the Capital Raising Pro Mastermind, where I teach you all of the fundamentals of marketing, investor communications, building your brand so you could raise capital. You could shoot me an email and we could have a conversation.
That was awesome, Keaton. Caden. So I really appreciate how brief you were, giving the overall big picture here, if you will. I personally got a lot of information out of it. Definitely, what I'm doing now is I'm also putting that link. So it's basically Caden at CadenPatel.com. What's the link again?
Sure, I could submit that in the chat bar.
Yeah, if you would.
Yeah, perfect.
That's perfect.
And this way we have this way I kept it brief so we could answer people's question, because I don't know the particular situations that they are in, and they get some opportunity.
Right, that's perfect. So yeah, we're going to open it up for Q&A now. If anybody has any questions that you want to share. The first question that came in while you were talking, I didn't want to interrupt, but it's usually the first question that comes in is, are you going to be sharing the slides? Where could people find out more about you? And if you could share the slides.
Sure. So you could send me an email, and then I could share more information on my websites, programs, slides, anything you need to know.
So basically what you're doing is you have a coaching program to help people get started investing in their own syndications and raising the capitals to do that.
Yes. So what I help do is I help real estate entrepreneurs build their brand, market, and get investors into their brand. So this way they have the power to buy more real estate. So what they choose to do with the capital is their business. If they are building a multifamily, acquiring a 10 unit or 40 unit, or they want to partner with somebody, at the end of the day, I handle the capital raising part, help them go through all of these things, how to bring your investors through the funnel, the communications you should have with them, how to build that trust, the authority. So that way you're building a bank of funds, and you could use that equity to grow your real estate business model as you see fit.
Perfect, perfect. And then you also have a YouTube channel as well, right? Where you're talking more in detail about what you have going on right now.
Yes, absolutely. So I will be putting more videos on that as well, because I also do high performance coaching for real estate entrepreneurs who don't have that strategy. Maybe they don't have that clarity. They are not leveraging their time, their resources really properly, because we live in a world where there's so many things going on. And if we don't really pick a strategy that's perfect for us, we might not get the results, right? We all have unique strengths and weaknesses, so you have to balance and figure out something that really works for you. So for example, for me, it's capital raising. My strength is not in talking to brokers and agents, it's in talking to investors. So I built my whole business model around it.
Awesome. Anybody else have a question that they'd like to bring up for Ketan Patel of Ketan Patel Coaching?
Carlos, this is Clay. I have a question.
Sure, sure.
And I have to apologize. I was on a call that went a little bit long, so I joined a little bit late. But so maybe you've answered already. But I'm a guy in his mid 40s, and so I'm a little bit on the back end of the social media wave. So I'm curious, what what's the best way to reach people these days? I mean, I see YouTube kind of taking off. It's the second largest search engine, if you will,
Right.
in the world. So is it YouTube? I mean, how does Instagram play into it, and all these other opportunities?
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Clay. So to add a little bit to it, so I'm not a big personal media, social media user either. And in fact, most of the money I had raised was done without any marketing. So a lot of times we think that if everybody's on YouTube or Instagram, we have to do it. Which is not true. And I know a lot of other people that have built a bigger businesses just from referrals and relationships as well, or not using any of those platforms, only using LinkedIn. So these are just some tools. The key question is, what is your overall strategy, who you are trying to reach, what you're trying to do with their funds into your business, and based on that we want to pick up a tool. Otherwise what would happen is it's just not cohesive. So you go on Instagram or you go on YouTube, but your audience is not really hanging out there, right? And you're building the following instead of another quicker route that's waiting for you. So it all ties down to your ideal investor profile and what you're trying to do. And certainly you do not need to do something that you don't love, because there's all kinds of people out there. There are people who only do podcasts and they just have built a successful business. There are people who just do a lot of videos. And for me, up to this point, I had not done a lot of marketing, but I also owned another senior care business as well, where I had done online marketing, not in the real estate realm. So you
Right.
definitely don't have to feel that, you are not caught up with social media, what to do there. The key is coming up with good messages for your brand story, for your personal story, and then you could figure your way out from there.
Awesome.
Makes sense. Yeah, I guess if you don't belong on YouTube, you might do more harm than good if you try to get on YouTube.
Yes, if it doesn't speaks to you, then definitely not. You want to pick something that you're really passionate about, then the channels and the strategies you could figure out. So if you love sharing experiences, then podcast is a great medium. And on an average, podcasts have 100 downloads easily per episode for real estate podcasts. So if you are getting 40, 50 downloads, and that takes 1 hour of your time, once you figure out a system to go consistently on the podcast, you could come up with a great article or a little ebook or anything like that, and bring all that audience, the passive investors, back to your website.
Mm-hmm.
And
Gotcha.
you could write on bigger pockets. If you don't want to do video, just stick with writing. You could write on bigger pockets a dozen articles and then apply to be one of the contributor, and then people would find you there, search you, and go back to your website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that brings a great point too, that I'm glad you brought it up, Caden, is that we could definitely meet everyone. We could meet up on Bigger Pockets as well. That's, he mentioned that I'm on there. He's on there, Dan Hanford and Multifamily Investor Nation's on there. you guys want to meet up on Bigger Pockets, more power to us. Also, if you guys want to meet up on LinkedIn, definitely have a pretty decent presence there. And, by all means, let me know if you want to connect there. And if I could introduce you to someone on LinkedIn, by all means, let me know, and I'll do my best to give you a formal introduction with any one of my colleagues. I love that you mentioned, Caden, the ebook, and I also like that you mentioned your strategies, how you systematize what you're doing. So my quick question is, what do you do to systematize your whatever programs you're working, whatever social media you're using, anything like that? And also, what kind of topics should we discuss when we're talking about writing an ebook for our investors or our presenters or viewers, if you will?
Okay. So the ebook would go to your ideal audience. So, for example, when I did this thing years ago on LinkedIn, my ideal investors were doctors and pharmacists and attorneys. And for them, a big challenge is active versus passive investing, because everybody talks that real estate investing is the great way to wealth. But a lot of people, if they haven't bought the properties, they don't know that buying a 3-unit or 4-unit property and the management, the time it goes in, it's not for a high paying doctor, right? High paying job. It's not really worth it. So I did a piece on that. And I suggested to ask yourself certain questions. And I told them about my experience on investing as an LP and my experience as buying 20, 30 units over the years on an active, how it looked like. And for everybody, it's different. And that was my central piece, because I knew it jived with my audience. So the key is to know what message, what problem can you solve for that audience. On my coaching side, what I did is I wrote a ebook on my site, ketanpatel.com, that I'm launching now. Is talks about 5 pillars of peak performance in real estate. I have at least 24 people in my network. They're all crushing in multifamily and general real estate hotels. And I've been studying them for years, and I see these fundamentals. So for people who want to go to the next level, if that's my audience and they can't figure out what's blocking them, this would make sense, right? So you have to ask yourself, what problems can you solve for audience? What piece of information would be really helpful to them? And around that, you could make your ebook content.
Awesome. Thank you.
And a quick note, by the way, if you want, the easy thing to do is you could write down those 5 articles first, and then you could just turn that into an ebook. You could get even more mileage out of it.
Awesome. So repurposing your blogs, if you will.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. That's a great tip. Awesome.
And in terms of systemizing, right? So what would happen is for LinkedIn, back when I was doing the LinkedIn marketing, is first I had to try something just to see what the job entails, right? Connecting with people, sending the message and whatnot. Then I made an Excel sheet and I had an admin assistant. So I showed them the process. This is how you do the connection. This is the message you send. And this is the next thing you do. It took 2-3 months, but then it started generating the emails. I did the same thing for podcasts. I go to 1 episode a week pretty much. In the beginning, I made some pitches, and then I showed the assistant, this is the pitch, this is the list of podcasts, this is how you schedule. And then eventually it's a process. So all I need to do now is just show up at the podcast. Everything's taken care of. Otherwise, if we don't process and only so much time. So as time goes, we should add little bit processes into our business. I have an email ready for all potential investors that I talk to between the conversations. What should go after the first conversation, right? This way you don't have to think, hey, nice to talk to you, adding some personalization and adding some things that they'll find interesting and to continue the conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I just want to say, if anybody else has any questions, by all means, this is the time to ask them. If there's no further questions, then we'll go ahead and jump into the breakout rooms. But yeah, I love what you're doing with. I mean, I know I spoke to you the first time we spoke, less than probably 20-minute call, and already you gave me like 2 awesome, viable tips that I was able to implement immediately. So I thank you for your wisdom, and I know you know what you're talking about. I hope that the rest of our guests give you the opportunity as well with your coaching program, because I got a feeling they're going to be learning a lot of great tips on capital raising success. So, any other questions? We actually have people still coming in. That's great. Um, so we're here with Caden Patel of Caden Patel Coaching. We're currently asking questions as you're coming in. Please let us know what city and state you're coming from. If you're coming in from another country, which we are expecting international guests, and we actually have some already here, just let us know what country you're coming in from. And if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to ask them. This is the opportunity. And if not, we'll just wait a little bit longer. We'll just jump into the breakout rooms. Briefly, I will tell you, in the breakout rooms, for a quick second, the camera does disappear off your computer. There might be a delay. Hang in there. You'll get a message to come into the breakout room. At that point, you'll be able to join. So don't leave. You'll see the camera pause or go away for a little bit, and it'll come right back to you. So I want to take a second to welcome everyone who's been on this awesome show so far. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we have Mary Beth here. Thank you for joining us, Mary Beth. Appreciate that. Clay, he's become a regular on our show. Thank you so much for joining us, Clay. Melanie, I know you've been trying to jump on a few times, so thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really glad to have you here. Thank you so much. Trevor Thompson, a pleasure to have you here as well, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Caden, obviously, thank you so much for joining us today. And Shirley, thank you for joining us as well. And everyone else who's here today, we really appreciate your time. And Caden, do you have anything else you want to add before we go into the breakout rooms?
No, the only thing is, if you guys really want to make sure that if you are really committing to real estate, then capital raising is a big component and it's going to take time. So putting the systems into the place, have a long-term vision. A lot of times what happens is 3 months go by, 6 months go by, a year goes by, and we are not moving the needle. So I'll highly encourage to have a 90-day goal. And if nothing happens, it's okay, but look back. This way you could be accountable to yourself, because we don't want more time to go out. We want to take the right steps, build the systems, and raise capital. So that's that. And besides that, Carlos, thanks for the opportunity, and thank you everybody for being here. Happy to share the message and hope you guys got some value.
Awesome, for sure. I do have a question that's coming in right now. Good afternoon. My name is Tashawn, and I'm 20 years old. Thank you for joining us, Tashawn. I appreciate that. Since I'm so young, how do I find those investors in my inner circle if my inner circle isn't ready? So how do I find those investors if my inner circle isn't ready to invest yet?
Okay, so if your inner circle is not ready to invest, it's okay. A lot of times there's a little bit of nurture going on, right? So you could still do something like maybe a meetup group, maybe, have a website with some newsletters or email chains or blogs or anything like that. And you could still add them to that. So as time goes, and that has happened to me, I have talked to people from my inner circle, people from bigger pockets, or lead that came from my website that invested 2 years down the road or a year and a half down the road, right? Some people are not ready for financial reasons, or they might not be ready for any other reason. So have some kind of system so everybody you come in contact with kind of gets put into your funnel. And then you are not doing anything, but they are just getting nurture, getting more and more information as well. And then if you have exhausted the inner circle, then think of a platform where you could share value and bring in more new leads, like a meetup. You could, if you want podcasts, you could start your podcast. It's based on things you're interested in, the skills you have, or anything. You could just get going and refine it.
Awesome. Great question and great answer to it as well. And also, guys, since you did mention, we mentioned a few things. Let me tell you about the summit for Multifamily Investor Nation. That's coming up on January 21st through the 23rd. Also, as I mentioned before, Peyton Patel is also going to be our presenter today. He's also going to be a presenter at the Multifamily Investor Nation Summit. We hope you could join us there. If you want to use a promo code, use Carlos100. That's Carlos100. You'll save $100 off the price of admission. And also, I want to invite you to our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. Basically, my name on the YouTube channel is Carlos D. Reinoso. That's Carlos D as in David, Reinoso. And if you join us there, you'll be able to see our past videos as well as our future videos coming up. We have many guests lined up. We have Prashant Kumar coming up. We have Madhvi Jain coming up, and a lot of local investors as well that you might be familiar with, and investors from Texas as well as Arizona, and some people from bigger pockets that you might be familiar with as well. So I hope that you guys will join us on our YouTube channel and also join us for our next meetup. It's going to be the first Monday of January, and we have a special local investor. And so we hope that you'll join us for that as well. Anybody else have any questions, any comments you want to bring up? All right. If not, without further ado, we're going to be jumping into the breakout rooms. And at this point, we'll be able to to network, and feel free to ask any questions, bring up any topics that you might have. And once we jump into the breakout rooms, feel free to introduce yourself and let us know what you're doing in the multifamily space. All right, everybody's been invited to the breakout rooms. I'll be seeing you there shortly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's even better.
There's 2 breakout rooms, I guess.
Yeah, there should be 2. Is there 1 or 2?
Yeah, well, it might be 2 then, because we got 6 people in here then. The other people only got 4 in.
Okay, I'll be coming in back and forth. But basically, while you guys are here, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing in the multifamily investor space, and maybe how long you've been in it. And if you're not experienced investor, that's great too. Just let us know what you're doing professionally, and we'll get just get started. Clay, you have more experience in this meetup, so if you would, please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us.
I'm old. Yeah, so I'm with Old Capital Lending. I joined Old Capital about 5 months ago, back in August, and I'm based here in Georgia, born and raised, here in Atlanta. But I've been with banks for 9 years. I've been with GE Capital for another 9 years on the JV equity side and asset management and lending. The past 5 years, up until August, I was an asset manager on multifamily for a couple of large firms. And I joined Old Capital in a more transactional lending role back in August. So I'm here to help clients place debt. I'm also an aspiring GP, if you will. So my focus, I think, just to keep conflicts out of the way, I'd probably steer towards the more secondary markets, say Greenville, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Panama City, Charleston, just some somewhat nearby secondary markets that I would be looking in. And but yeah, that's me.
All right, thanks for sharing, Clay. Anyone else want to go next?
I'll go get out of the way.
Yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
Looking to do my first syndication. I am an LP in a 276 unit in Huntsville, Alabama, and I have a 24 unit with a couple of partners in Norfolk, Virginia. Did Michael Blanc's coaching program and finished that up in February of this year. So since then, I blame it on COVID. It's COVID's fault. I haven't done anything. No, I got kind of lazy this year, kind of with COVID as my excuse, but then I had my heart set on a couple of sponsors that I wanted to work with, but then when it came down to it, they're just so big and there was so much capital waiting on the side. I'm more of a capital raiser coming alongside strong GP partners. So I'm getting very close though. I've been doing a lot of work the last couple of months to network and meet sponsors that I want to work with. So very close, but I'm in Austin. I don't live anywhere. I move to markets. I've been nomadic all year. So I've been in Austin. I'm headed to Dallas next, and then to Arizona via Belize, because why not? And then I'm looking now at Arizona, Utah, Idaho to focus on, but I do love Central Texas and North Carolina.
Awesome. Central Texas, North Carolina. Thanks for sharing, Melanie. That's awesome. Anybody else?
Oh, I don't mind going. I'm Trevor. I'm from Austin, Texas. That's the most beautiful bridge we have in Austin, Texas, behind me with sunset. So if you ever get to come to Austin, it's a good bridge. I have been an LP in 8 deals, and I have switching now, trying to find my first deal, focusing on Central Texas to be a GP and syndicate my first deal. I'm part of a local mentorship program, but they mostly do single family. But I've never done any single family other than the one I live in.
Awesome. Thank you, Trevor. All right, who's next?
If I go ahead and go, I'm Shaka, live in Columbus, Ohio. Been following Michael Blanc program for a couple of years now. I'm looking for my first GP deal. I'm an LP in a 112 unit in Savannah, Georgia currently. Looking at is Columbus, Ohio, basically Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, anything I can drive more like a 5-hour radius. And Georgia as well, so I'm looking at Georgia market as well. So, as far as Carlos, I'm also a multifamily investor co-organizer too here in Columbus. So I want to connect with you offline because since COVID happened, I haven't been doing my meetups, but I want to try to get into that Zoom thing. So I'll probably shoot you a note on Meetup so we can connect a little bit more. And
Sure, that sounds great.
Started.
That sounds great. Yeah, and it's funny because I kept looking, I'm like, I know I've seen him somewhere, but where do I see him? And I've seen in the premium membership. So yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Shaka, Columbus is it's a popular market. I used to have 6 deals there for another company when I was an asset manager, and right when we were getting in, there was a lot of institutional capital really coming in on Columbus.
It's a nice market.
It's a great market for sure.
I was underwriting a couple deals today, a guy in Salt Lake City that's buying in Columbus. So I may have to have you do some secret squirrel recon for me.
Hey, contact me.
You see, guys?
I don't love the underwriting, but I'll keep it posted.
Awesome. Okay. And let me tell you, this is a great opportunity that come up on this meetup all the time. Before we used to do it in person, and I saw deals being started right in front of me. Like people were just connecting. Next thing I know, I see them again, and they're letting us know how they closed a deal 3 months later. So this does happen on this show, and I hope I wish it for everybody here. Anybody else that want to go ahead and share? I think Mary Beth is wanting to share something.
Yeah, hi guys. Well, I'm Mary Beth. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. So I met Carlos through a mutual friend, and I'm not necessarily in investing, but I am here to learn, which is why I wanted to connect with you guys and just learn a little bit more. I'm a full-time office manager, and I also build a part-time asset through an online, platform. So I'm just here to learn, just to listen to the wise people. So to share, to hear your wisdom and just hear, learn a little bit more about investing. I'm 32, which isn't that young, but it's always good to learn something new. So
for sure.
Looking forward to hearing more from you guys.
Appreciate that. Awesome. Anybody else? I know there's more people on the call. Shelly, you want to go ahead, or Ty, you want to share something?
Yeah, this is Shelly. I wish I would have jumped on an hour ago, but you're in a different time zone. And according to my calendar, this meeting starts in 3 minutes.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. I am in the DFW area in Texas. I just started learning about real estate investing. I joined a group down here about a year ago. I've got a couple residential deals under my belt, but I'm really wanting to learn more about the multifamily. So again, I'm just here to learn and check this out. It's my first meetup.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate that. And yeah, we hope also that you'll be able to learn some stuff and join us for future episodes as well. Ty, did you want to go ahead? Ty, okay, Ty is
He's muted. I don't know if he knows that.
Yeah, if you want to unmute Ty, you could go ahead and unmute yourself, and you could go ahead and
Oh yeah. Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Tashawn Greer. I'm a newly licensed real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia.
Awesome.
And I'm trying to get into real estate investing also.
Well, you're in great company here as well. As you know, well, welcome, Ty. Thank you so much for joining us today. As you might have heard at the beginning of the show, I started in real estate as an agent back in 1999 in Miami, Florida. That might date my age a little bit. But I started doing single family sales when I first found out about real estate. I fell in love with real estate like right away. And I knew one day I'd be investing in multifamily. That was the whole point of becoming an agent. I started selling single family homes, and I did that for many, many years. And the past 2 years, I decided I wanted to syndicate deals. And, you know, I've been in great company. I've learned from Joe Fairless. I've learned from Dan Hanford. I've learned from, you know, Rod Cleaves to Michael Blancs, Bigger Pockets. So we kind of have, one thing you'll learn about the multifamily space, it's a small space. Sometimes it looks like there's millions of people here, but it's almost like everyone knows everyone else. And at some point, you're going to talk to someone who's already known somebody else that you're familiar with. So that being said, you definitely want to establish relationships, and you definitely want to be a person, like Dan always says, and I like to also emphasize, that people could know, like, and trust. And the reason that's important is because, first of all, if they don't know you, there's no way they could like you or trust you. But most importantly, they have to know you. And then once they do, you also want them to like and trust you. And you could do that by being a person of integrity, being a person of your word, and so on and so forth. But, you know, back to, you know, what I was doing originally and how I came to be part of this group is Dan gave us an opportunity to be a core organizer. And I jumped on the opportunity. I said, wow, this would be a great way to network with other experienced investors and learn. And then I thought, well, that's kind of selfish of me. Wouldn't it be great if I could learn and show people what I'm learning, share with others what I'm learning, and that way they could come up with me as well. I am an agent here in Atlanta, Georgia as well. I do work for a company here in Georgia, but beyond that, I'm looking to syndicate deals myself. So I'm always looking for LPs. I'm always looking for other GPs that want to co-syndicate. But most importantly, I'm working with loan guarantors and working with them in learning. And I don't know what happened with Caton. We might have lost him here by mistake from the breakout rooms. But I could tell you that in a short time that I've spoken with him, he's definitely a great coach. He's definitely somebody who knows a lot more than the average Joe when it comes to systems, when it comes to setting up goals, and how to systematize is the best thing that I've learned from him the short time that I've known him. So, you know, what I would say is, you know, he mentioned and Clay brought up, what's a good place to network? I would jump on that. I would say beyond, you know, just a social media platform, what are you most comfortable with? So in the case, the example that he gave, if you're most comfortable writing a blog, be the blog writer. If you're most comfortable on video, be a video influencer. If it's just social media in general, like some people might know, I have four social media sites. One is for my investment page. One is for my real estate page as a single family agent. The other is my personal page. And since I have over 5,000 friends, I established another personal page so that I could have the people that I can't accept on my main personal page, I could have somewhere else where I could still contact them. So that's one place for me. Facebook was a great place to establish relationships and tell people a little bit more about what I'm doing. Another place, and I think is for me the ideal place to find investors, both passive and active, is LinkedIn. So I know a lot of you came today from LinkedIn, and I hope to have you continue to join us. Is there anyone that still hasn't had an opportunity to introduce themselves?
I just wanted to tell Ty that he should get Bob Helms' book, Be in the Top 1%. It's about how, as a real estate agent, you could be in the top 1% by learning about investment properties.
Yeah, that's a great, what's the name of that book, Trevor?
It's called Be in the Top 1%, and it's by Bob Helms, who's Robert Helms from the Radio Guys' father.
Oh, nice.
And it's an awesome book. It's all about, I'm not a real estate agent, but it was anybody who's going to become one, a friend of mine, I send it to them because it just talks about exactly what you said, relationship building, understanding how to value a deal, finding what they need, and then doing multiple sales, because buying homes, you only buy one. Buying deals, you buy many.
Agreed. And that's another thing about multifamily, the economies of scale. So whereas if you have a single family home and one person moves out, you have a vacant property. But if you have a 100-unit building and one tenant moves out, you still have 99 tenants paying your rent. And in this case, it's also your mortgage. So that's a great tip as well. Also, just a little side note, on our last meetup, I forgot to mention, the last meetup was with Dr. Mike Lawrence, and he gave a great presentation on how to analyze a market quickly without ever opening a spreadsheet. And I forgot to mention that I do have a book. I've written a book. Basically, it's called Selling Secrets You Can't Afford to Miss. So that would classify me, I guess, if you will, as an author as well. But the whole point I'm bringing that book up is because it might be beneficial to a new agent, or it also might be beneficial to anyone who's looking to sell their house without hiring an agent. And it's also beneficial to anyone who just wants to improve on their selling skills. So again, the name of the book is Selling Secrets You Can't Afford to Miss. It's really not anywhere right now. So I haven't put it on Amazon, but if you're interested in a copy of that book, a hard copy of that book, you can send me an email and I'll go ahead and ship it out to you. I guess you would have to give me your address. But if you're interested in the book, like someone who is interested in sales or getting started as an agent and anything like that, I think this would be a beneficial book that could help you as well. So it's, again, Selling Secrets You Can't Afford to Miss by Carlos D. Reinoso. And in this case, the book that Trevor mentioned as well is Be in the Top 1%. Correct me if I'm wrong, Trevor. Was that Be in the Top 1%?
That's correct, by Bob Helms. And if you've ever heard of the Radio Guys, Robert Helms, that's his dad. And he was one of the top real estate agents. He was Trump's real estate agent for years.
Yeah, the Real Estate Guys Radio, Bob Helms, he passed away just a couple months ago. But yeah, it's a long title. It's Be in the Top 1% by Dominating the Investment Niche, something like that. The subtitle's really long.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Be in the Top 1%. I'm trying to find the percent. All right, guys. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add? I mean, it's free forum now, so anything you guys want to bring up, I'll just give a second to somebody to think of something, because sometimes it just takes, a pause for something to occur to somebody. Anyone? All right, so
something to share.
Go ahead, Heather.
Okay, so I wish Caton, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Caton.
Yeah, I wish he was here so he could tell me I'm wrong or right or whatever, but I know this whole platform thing can seem daunting, that you have to have this big platform and be this famous person with this huge funnel where thousands of people are coming in the top to spit out a handful of investors at the bottom. There are other ways to do it. That is one way. You do need a funnel because you need to keep track of people, but one way is the big funnel and one way is the relationship building. So I personally do the relationship building side. I would rather have 200 investors than 2,000 investors potential. So it is one of the things I'm going to do is, if you come to meetup groups like this, you're going to be in the cesspool, we'll call it, of all our friends that are investors, but this is not where your investors, your limited partners are. So what I'm going to do is target investing, maybe not specific to real estate, definitely not multifamily, and investing or high net worth individuals or women's business or entrepreneurs or tech world, or like he targets doctors and if you're a capital raiser, then you should be spending most of your time looking for investors. Just a thought, because when I heard about the platform building thing, and a lot of people do this, it's kind of daunting. But just remember, if you create a platform, you have a YouTube channel, podcast, you have all the social media to keep up with, you've just created yourself a job, unless you can hire all of that out. But if your face is the brand, you're not going to get away from that.
Gotcha.
That's my 2 cents.
I'll tell you, I think the reason he's coming up with that process is because, like he said, he was coached by Joe Fairless. And Joe Fairless, if you read the book, actually, I think I have it here. If you read the book, Best Ever Apartment Syndication book, he talks about that in the book, where you should have some kind of platform where what they call it, a thought leadership platform. And the main reason for that is because you want to be able to just have somewhere where people could get to know you a little bit better. And you're right, Melanie, this isn't the end all be all of the best places to gain investors, but it's a good way, a good platform, if you will, to kind of get to know people better, and to see in all levels. So someone like you who's got experience could possibly talk to someone with less experience and say, hey, look, I've tried a few things. This is something that has been working for me. And then that information is invaluable. I mean, it's what I call gold nuggets. So it's great to have someone like you here who could add more value and help those that are coming up. So that's why I try to reach out to, in Bigger Pockets, LinkedIn and everything else, to experienced investors, because I think it's a great way to kind of mesh the experience with the novice and kind of get that as a way to help each other, if you will. And then also a good way to, for the experienced investors to go, okay, look, this is what the newbie investor is looking for. This is something, a good way to appeal to them, if you will. So that's a great tip. I appreciate that, that there are different places to get to know people better, and to bring investors into your platform as well. So thanks for sharing. Anyone else have something they'd like to share? All right, if there's nothing else, I'd like to say one last thing before we go. And that's a big fat thank you to everyone that's here today. I'm super grateful that you took your time out of your day to be here with us. I appreciate your time. I know that there's 100 million other places you could be. So I'm grateful that you were here with us today. And I want to just last time tell you guys about the Multifamily Investor Nation Summit. It's coming up January 21st through the 23rd. And basically the summit, there's over 50 experienced investors, both LPs, GPs. For those who don't know, LPs is limited partners, GPs is general partners, and there's also syndicators, loan guarantors, people in the banking industry, agency debt, such as Clay Allen of Old Capital Lending, and Vinny Chopra, I know, is going to be there, Dan Hanford, Danny Randazzo, Kaden Patel, and the list goes on and on. So I hope you'll join us for that. Basically, just go to Multifamily Investor Nation /summit, Multifamily Investor Nation /summit, and just use my promo code Carlos100, and you'll be able to save $100 there. Also, you're going to be able to see this video once it's been edited on my YouTube channel, so I hope you'll join us there as well. So thank you guys for this wonderful experience. I really appreciate all of you sharing this time with us. If there's nothing else, then this is Carlos D. Reinoso signing off.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. And again, my email address is here if anyone wants to connect further and continue the conversation offline. Just go to the beginning of this chat and you'll see my email address. I'm also going to install it here once more. And I look forward to getting to know you guys a lot better. So thank you once again for joining us. Have yourself a pleasant evening. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. And whatever religion, have a great holiday. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. Bye.
Appreciate your support. Take care.